Well, hello and welcome to Edtech People. And this is a new kind of style of episode that we are going for. And I say we because I am joined by Jack, who obviously we've recorded a previous podcast with not too long ago. It went on for about an hour and a half, and I've had really good feedback on it that people enjoyed listening to it. And I've been looking at how we can make the podcast a bit more regular, a bit more interactive, a bit more up to date. And so Jack and I have been talking for a while about how we can do that, and we're going to give this a go, aren't we, Jack? We're going to see about doing a fortnightly podcast where we just really catch up and talk about things that have we've seen in the news or experienced in our roles, and just have a chat. And we want it to be really interactive, so we've got comments on the pod that you can ask on Spotify, or you can comment on YouTube, and give us your feedback on it. And when we obviously post it on social media, it will be great to get interaction from those who are listening, and we can have live streams, bring people on, all kinds of interactive stuff that over time will hopefully build a really good community. So Jack, it's good.
Thank you.
Yes. Hello. It's good to have you.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think what might be useful if we just reintroduce ourselves a little bit, so people can get to know a bit of where what we do, and that puts some things in context, I think, isn't it? So just remind everybody what you do.
Okay. Jack Marshall, so currently Senior IT Operations Manager at DRB Ignite Trust. As of a few days ago, we are now 14 primary schools in Birmingham, West Midlands area, so Birmingham, sort of Dudley and Stourbridge. Whilst current role is primary only, sort of got experience in secondary quite extensively in previous roles, etc. So good understanding of sort of the education space up to sort of that post-16 area. Haven't quite entered is it FE, I guess, area. Is that next? I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what the future lies, or what lies in the future. But so I'd say my core day-to-day responsibility is the operational element of IT for DRB. I guess it's making sure those lights maintain, making sure the lights continue to be alight as such.
Yeah.
And making sure that sort of everything works across our estate. And, we'll probably touch on what we've done, how we've done it in various episodes throughout. But we're quite proud of what we've done. We're not the best, we've done a lot of work in what is 5 years in May. I would have been there, so quite a long time, longest I've worked anywhere. And I'm sort of proud of what we've done, what my team's done, how we've done it, etc. And then, recently become a trustee, which is sort of the new sort of line of sort of growth and developing professionally. So that's pretty cool. So just joined Think Differently Trust as a trustee, and sort of that trust focuses on sort of inclusion amongst other things as well. So there's quite a specialism there, which is really good to sort of get behind and be able to focus on specifically.
Yeah, absolutely, and a wealth of experience there, and well known within the community as well, which is always great. And obviously, a lot of people in the community as well. For those who haven't listened before, so I'm Chief Technology Officer at Concero UK, which is a managed service provider working pretty much exclusively at the moment in education. My role certainly very heavy in the education. I've always worked in education IT. I've been technician through to a network manager I've led a trust of 16 schools, I think, in the end. And then I started up a traded arm, Lords IT, which had 50 odd schools in it. And then 4 years ago, coming up to 4.5 years ago, took the jump to what many people talk about as the dark side, going to an MSP. And I think that kind of experience that we both got will be really interesting, and to come across things either from different areas or different sides, different views. And like you, I'm a chair of governors for a middle school in Redditch, where I'm based, and that's actually part of a trust that I used to work for. I got seconded to. So, and what's really nice is the chap that I used to work with very closely at Lords is now running ops there. So he's done all the IT and everything like that. So it's, yeah, I think that would be a really interesting area to bring in as well. And we've already said, and we'll get better at this, I'm sure, Jack. We'll tease for and our next episode, we may well focus a bit on some of that governance side that we work in and stuff on that side of things. So the idea is we're going to pick 2 or 3 topics really a fortnight to talk about, and we gather our thoughts from our social media. So LinkedIn quite a lot on there, and Blue Sky for myself, and EduGeek, ANME, Schools Week, all those kind of areas where we can see some news and talk about it. And then, so this week the 3 areas that we've just literally agreed on, because we're organised, obviously we're professionals.
Definitely didn't have any issues joining the call or anything like that.
No technical issues and getting all this set up, don't worry. What did we say? We're going to talk about AI, because we were just both gushing about some of the cool things that we've been building recently and how
we're not
really
going to go into too much detail though, because some of it's a little bit of a secret on my side, but
and my side as well. But yeah, exactly. So, but we'll talk about kind of like the possibilities it creates, I think is a good way to term that. And then what else did we also say we were going to talk about? I think
projects, just general sort of that classic.
Because it's Easter holiday here in the UK. So there's obviously work going on that. And there was a third thing, which we'll probably remember when we get to it.
We're going to talk about your recent blog post, I think it was.
Yes, how the death of the network manager role, and how please don't come showering for me. But yeah, I think it'd be quite good just to have a chat of that and put some context behind it. Because just for the record, if you're listening from the ANME or from EduGeek, I am not against anybody who works in IT. Far from it. Very much the opposite, and want to support people. Okay, well,
and I think that's the point, isn't it, Matt? I think it's really important that the clickbait title almost is very much the clickbait title.
Yes,
and it's 100%. Actually, if you look at it in the right way, it's a positive. But it's just, again, it's that, isn't it? It's how we frame that.
Absolutely. And that's why I think this would be really cool, just to have a chat about it and put stuff in it and also hear people's views. So don't forget to comment on it. And then if we get some, I've said it before, we didn't get any, but if we get some comments and stuff, then we'll actually refer back to them in the next episode. So we'll be able to go back and engage with that. So let's talk a little bit about AI. So I've been using, I think you said the same, I've been using AI to help me write reports and such like. And we all know the adage, and I always say this in training, is if you put crap in, you get crap out. You put good stuff in, you get good stuff out. And, when we're writing reports, we both have to write reports for our roles and such like. And we've got the knowledge to obviously fine tune what's going in there and to call out AI on the crap that it might be producing. And that's really, really important. But recently, for me anyway, and I think you said the same, it's been using the technology to build stuff, which is really exciting me here. So I've always been a tinkerer. Probably been a tinker if you ask my mum as well. Tinkerer in wanting to build things. I've done websites for a long time, and with life and everything, there's so many different APIs you can go into, and so many things so much data out there these days that you can bring in and connect. But there's not enough time to learn how it all works. So I think, you've said the same. It's like building some of these systems and portals and whatever to bring that data together. It's really exciting, isn't it? I mean,
it's crazy actually, isn't it? And I think we talked about this a little bit last time in terms of, I'm pretty sure it was our podcast, man, so forgive me if it wasn't, but I'm not sure that we know what AI looks like yet in the educational space. And quite a few different people I've spoke to, or I'm in conversations with, sort of are on the same page. Some people hate hearing that, and it may be that I've just not seen it yet, and I'm completely in the black hole. But we see Gen AI, so we see Copilot in 365 is probably, I know, fair to say, one of the most common ones in education, because the majority of people in the UK are using 365, I would suggest. I think Workspace is definitely got its place there as well. But naturally, I think with the shift to 365, certainly the licensing model around A3 that most or trusts and schools are at / going towards, with Copilot embedded in that, at its initial level. I think Gen AI, that chat, etc., within Word, PowerPoint, etc., Edge, is where a lot of people have their experience of AI.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, it's so much more powerful than that, isn't it? It's not just, can you reword this email for me so it sounds more polite and less aggressive? Not that I ever have to use that prompt. But like, I think when we look at what we were discussing before, around what you can actually build and how quickly you can build it, it's like there's a load of stuff that I've been doing recently, which is like, could I build it on my own? Probably not. And if I could, it would probably take me literally months to be where I'm at in a day. Partly because of time, and a much bigger point is around that skill gap and that knowledge gap of all of this stuff. And I think the sort of another core one for me is actually the amount of different platforms that are available to us right now. So we've got Claude, we've got ChatGPT, we've got Copilot, we've got Gemini, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah,
it's
I think
knowing
lots of
what
people.
to use and when.
I think lots of people think they're all the same. They think AI is AI, and all those platforms are exactly the same. It's interesting, as you well know. I've always come across a bit as a Microsoft fanboy, and so recently, Coursera, who I work for, have been very much working with Google for education, because Microsoft education team has been decimated. Most of the people who work there now work for Adobe. And so we've been working really closely with Google, and there's with the team there and the UK leads. And I was lucky enough to go and present at Google for their IT managers event. And I didn't realize how many people were going until I was there. And then I was really worried, because I could choose between 3 different speeches and whether they'd come in and sit in mine. And I'm pleased to say that people did. But it's interesting, because you used to say about Microsoft and it being built in and baked in. I think I wrote a blog post about this recently, that like you say, I was mainly using it to rewrite stuff, or to elongate stuff, or to put fluff around basic technical stuff that I was putting in, and do all the wordy stuff for me. But yeah, now using Claude, I'm building systems. But what I really find exciting is when I'm demoing it to schools, actually using Gemini is really good for education, because you got Notebook LM, you've got Nano Banana, you've got the video stuff in there as well, and you've got Gems. What I really like about it is that it's all really, really accessible, as in it's built in, you don't even know where you're using it. Whereas, I don't know about you, but and I know Microsoft have recently actually said that they're going to change this. They've just shoved a Copilot button on everything and renamed everything Copilot.
Yeah, I would completely agree. So what I will say is I don't have the level of experience with the Google side and the AI side and Gemini, etc., that you've got there. But what I will certainly say is you've got, it just feels like you've got a Copilot button in every core Microsoft app now. I think if you go into the Copilot app in Edge, etc., you actually can find some really powerful stuff that's been around for quite a long time, like Reading Progress, and that suite of apps, which we've played around with a little bit internally. It's never took the traction that we've really wanted. We've ended up spending dollars on other platforms, but the reality is there's been some really powerful apps in the tech stack from Microsoft for a while, which now with Copilot embedded in, probably at its core almost, is making a difference.
Well, they've got that. If you log it, I mean, they've changed the login page obviously for 365,
don't
which
talk to me about that.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they have got a new button on there called Teach. I think it's called Teach.
Where
let you can go in. and you in there they're really showcasing all the education tools. So you'll only get that if you're an education tenancy. Same,
Mm.
whatever we talk about in this, it's worthwhile saying to people is that we're talking about education versions because that's what we use generally in the stuff. Although working for my employer, I am on the business app side of things as well. But they've got that teach bit on the left hand side that you can go into, and you can create lesson plans and do it. So they are starting to do that. But I mean, I'll have to send you one of the videos that I've done with Google for some of the stuff on there because it's very, very exciting. And what's nice is that doesn't have to be an either or these days in terms of which one you use. You can use either of them. And I think, read in progress is phenomenal in 365, and the insights that you can get in Teams to see it it's really, really powerful. But then you've got Notebook LM, which allows you to create your own podcast and video and everything like that. I always demo, with the in class, in Classroom, Google Classroom, how you can create a video with your face on it and be a Roman soldier, and then create a gem who they can question and ask things about that kind of life cycle, a lifestyle, and then just hit it back as a really easy for a teacher just to try and say, oh, I'm going to set homework and I'm going to use this gem for it, and that's what I think is so
and that
crucial,
immersive side as well. That immersive side that, like, you've given a great example there. And I remember years ago when I thought Apple keynotes were the one, every time they announce all the new products, one more thing, we haven't heard that for a while, but
no,
that they presented the I want to call it the augmented reality side of it, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So, you'd use your iPad and you mirrorcast that to the screen and you'll have something on the desk, but actually then it's suddenly showing Roman Empire on the table in the class, all that sort of stuff. It's like, is this now that next step in terms of, we're using that augmented reality almost, but on, changing your face for something else or whatever the correct phrase or terminology is.
Well, it's interesting when you're talking about the Apple stuff there. So BBC had a news article out, I think towards the end of last week. Apple just turned 50, haven't they? And it was saying about the three of their products, services, whatever, that have taken off. And it's talking about iPod, iPhone, obviously, and the Apple Watch. And then it was talking about 3 that have failed. And it was interesting. Is it Apple Glass, the new VR?
Did they? I was going to say, did they ever release that? But yeah, they did. The what was it called? I can't even remember what it was called.
No, I can't remember. And that's saying something for the headline product of them. But obviously Meta did their headset as well, and they've now pulled out of that VR world. Don't get me wrong, you look at the Meta glasses and they're taking off a bit more, I think, in terms of
the Ray-Ban things as well. They're pretty cool. Oakley, I think I've got them, so I think that's cool, but that's a whole different, that's not what it's meant to be, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably more where it's going to end up. You use it for live translation, can't you? You can watch people and do stuff like that.
Vision Pro, was it Apple Vision Pro?
Yes,
that was it.
That tells you all you need to know. If we can't even remember the name of it,
I'm an Apple fanboy. I've got about 8 different Apple devices in front of me here. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't even remember what this thing was called.
So I think it's I think it's really interesting to see that that kind of overcomplication of it almost is whether that was ahead of its time and we're going to come back to it. I'm not too sure.
I think so. I think it's a while out, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's a gimmick. But I also think Apple probably knew that and they've probably done it by design.
Oh yeah, everybody's got to start somewhere.
There's a strategy here. I think they knew it wasn't going to go to plan. They're not idiots. That's my mindset. You know what I mean? I always think when a big company like this does something, there's always something behind it.
Yeah, I try to say that I'm not an Apple fanboy. I'm recording this on the Mac. I've got an iPhone. I've got the AirPods in it. But
yeah, I've literally just counted. I've literally got 9 Apple devices in front of me. plus a few
So
more
you
up
are the
there.
Apple fanboy of the podcast now.
I've been in the walled garden for a long time, and I'm not ashamed to say that I've never tried to escape it. I'm pretty sure the gate could be open, and I'm nowhere near it. I'm fully embedded.
I've got a Chromebook now, as well, and yeah, I'm not using it right now, but I do have one that I now carry around with my Surface. So I've got a Mac, a Surface, and a Chromebook at my disposal. And do you know what's really nice is I can use all of them interchangeably and access everything that I need to across all of them. So that's a really
say
good...
what you like. Like you can be whatever and use whatever device essentially.
But going back to
challenges.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, carry on.
No, go on. So going back to obviously what because we've got to keep an eye on time on this, haven't we? We're just basically, just to sum that up a little bit, is that we're both using Claude a bit more now to build some interesting stuff. So I think we will come back and see how we're doing that. And I think it's just cool to see in education that we are able to take some of those ideas that people have in the sector and start creating things to really implement time savings, money savings, make data more visible, join up systems. It's really exciting time in that kind of stuff.
Super exciting. I've almost fully transitioned to Claude, I would say. I think my final take on this subject would be like, make sure you know what you're doing with your data. Make sure you know what APIs you're using or what you are and are not plugging into what data sets, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if in doubt, don't do it.
So if you're in education, the two
Copilot.
that you can use are Gemini and Copilot, because if you need to be logged in with your school account. They don't learn from your stuff. So if you want to play it safe, those are the two to go to. There are others that you can buy into, but you'll know about that. And if you need to check that. Okay, so let's move on to the second bit that we was going to talk about. What were we going to talk about second?
I think it was projects, wasn't it?
Yes. So, yes, good. I'm glad somebody's paying attention. It's good to have a co-host who can help me. So, in education, projects happen around holidays, because we're in a unique position, obviously, where we don't have people in the schools. Although that isn't the case so much anymore. Schools do have people there all the time, and you will pee somebody off doing a project in there if you've not told people that you're going to turn the stuff off. So, but on the whole, you've got a lot more opportunity to do stuff. So from my point of view, I think Easter's quite quiet this year in terms of individual projects, and I think we moved so many schools to the cloud last year that a lot have invested in that. And what we're seeing a lot at the moment is the adoption of technology more, rather than putting in devices or infrastructure. Although big one we're doing at the moment is a 4-school trust and moving all their iPads to Intune for management. So that's been quite exciting. And then we've got another secondary school where we're doing a Wi-Fi and wired. Huge job coming up in the summer. It's a very large school. I think it's also Easter's also that kind of time where you are really, if you've been in the game for a little bit, this is where you're planning your summer works. Even now, like, you would have probably know what you're going to do in the summer. Probably doing some prep work in Easter for doing it, and certainly knowing that over the next term you're going to need to hit the ground running come those 6 weeks. Because I don't know about you, but projects that we're having to do now are bigger, take more time, and that 6 weeks seems like a long time, but it ain't.
I mean, controversially from our side, like, we've not got any major projects happening over Easter. Again, sort of by design, because next half term, May half term, we're doing a migration, etc. I kind of said to the guys, it's like, if you want to go on holiday, sound, I'm not going to stop you, but would be great if you're here. Just so you guys get the experience. A couple of the guys and I on the team, we've done migrations for, we can do it in our sleep at this point, but some of the younger guys, be good for them to learn, etc. So we sort of, this half term, in the end, it's like, if you have time off sound, take whatever you want. But keep in mind, next half term, ideally you'll be here and you'll be able to get involved with the migrations. And And like I say, we're also planning, okay, what does the summer look like?
Mm.
And again, I think for us, it's probably just going to be something around device refresh strategy. What that looks like is still ongoing. But yeah, I think projects, we talked about last time, that migration piece. How do we do that? Make sure we iterate from last time we did it. Make sure we're still using the right tool set. How quickly can we do that? And I think this is where our two different sides of the table come in quite nicely. Because I've always been like, right, we're doing it ourselves, we're delivering it ourselves, we're not outsourcing anything, because that money we save, we skill up, blah, blah, blah. Naturally, that's probably not great for you guys, but there's enough other trusts out there. But I think from my point of view, we know what we're doing, we're good at it, and we learn each time, and it's how people develop. So it's how the techs on our team, whilst they are the IT technicians, they're probably a lot more capable than the majority of IT technicians who, with their experience, because of the exposure we allow them to have.
And it's so important that you get that. And I think I was really pleased, like within Concero, is our projects aren't necessarily, although they're planned, we do them all through the year. So we'll migrate people during term time, particularly at primary levels, and then we'll do more in a holiday. So we do need to do a lot of the prep work beforehand, but so where we've got people who aren't on the ground all the time, we've got the capacity to do that. And just to be clear, I'm sure you're exactly the same, Jack. This is a personal podcast. So although, of course, I'm going to talk about my work and you will as well, it's certainly not endorsed or sponsored by any of them, but we will talk about it because that's our jobs, and there's nothing to hide about what we're doing. I think it's really, you mentioned about like the two different areas of the table, and actually it was really nice last summer. We worked with a multi-academy in Dudley, and we worked with an existing IT team, and it was so nice to work with that team and give them knowledge. So we do this all the time. This is the first time they've done it. Will they come back to us? Probably not for that particular project. So we've got to be on the next thing that they probably need to do so we can support them that. But actually empowering people to do that stuff is still really, really important to me, to us. And obviously less work if we don't have to do it, which as a business you have to bear that in mind, but there's always something new that we are working with people to do. So like if some of our customers in multi academies have used us and learned on it, then that's really good from my point of view. It means that we've been able to pass on that knowledge, and that's exactly what you're doing within your team, and passing on that knowledge and making sure that people do, because it's not as you said, there's more than enough schools, there's more than enough work for us all to do. We don't need any more. But I think, migrations are a big one, but I do think we're going to get to that point. So it's interesting because I imagine you're doing it because you mentioned you've got a new school joining your trust.
Absolutely.
So bringing them into it.
Yeah.
So those kind of ones will be ongoing, won't they? But there must be a point where all schools have moved to the cloud. I know we're nowhere near it at the moment, but
so it's like, I think it then becomes like some of that cloud stuff, which is, in my experience, more infuriating than anything else. I've used some really great tools. There's some really cool tools to enable that, but there's always, because of how someone set something up originally, that tool isn't going to be as cool as it should be. I think with the sort of the moving of schools as well, like schools week, you see every now and then, X trust has moved 2 schools out, and they've now joined another trust for X or Y reasons. That's an interesting thing which I've never had to deal with in itself. It's like, okay, so if you've got a single tenant, how do we enable that migration?
So that's something that's the kind of stuff that we've been doing. So in Dudley, they were all RM schools, and then it's either moving individual schools from their individual tenants into a single multi-academy tenant. That's quite common. Or it's recently I had 2 multi-academies merge. So it was choosing which one or creating a new multi-academy tenancy and bringing them all together. So that is, but obviously that's a bit harder, isn't it? Because if they're on-prem, not only is it cheaper because it's free to move the stuff from on-prem into the cloud, but they haven't been using all those extra tools within the tenancy. So there's things are harder to move, things like forms, things like Power Automate, Power BI,
Yeah.
all those things that you want people to adopt. Moving them is a lot more of a labor to do. And even if you do get something like ShareGate, I don't know if you've seen that as one of the big platforms, that's stupidly expensive. I mean, absolutely crazy expensive to do it. So, but it does it really well. It's one button and it's done. Do you know what was really interesting recently though? Because we've done
Go
a
on.
lot of Microsoft to Google and Google to Microsoft. So I was at that Google event and I was with the guys there. We're talking about migration. Do you know you can pay Google? I think it was in the region of 19.5K, and they will merge tenancies for you live. So there is no downtime at all. So
So it's possible.
yeah, literally, you pay them a flat rate, they fully manage it, and they will literally merge your two tenants into one with all the domains in there, all the data, everything, and they manage it all from start to finish. And I was there going, oh, 19.5K, that's a lot of money for, I know that you could
Yeah.
move data a lot cheaper than that and end
But
up with the same solution. But people were like sitting up and going, do you know what, actually? That'd be quite good just to lay
yeah,
back and let it all happen for that
100%,
kind of money.
100%. And if it's resolving a problem that you can't get past because of whatever reasons, then yeah, of course you are.
Yeah. And you don't lose anything of it. But it was really interesting to see.
It's a really interesting one, that one, actually. And yeah, it's one to remember, I think, for the future.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be interested in if you're listening, what have you been doing over half term? What kind of projects have you been doing? What's been interesting you? Leave us a comment, let us know, or have you got anything big planned for the summer holidays?
And also maybe if there's stuff you want to do and you can't do it, and the why behind that, is that financial blocker, is that all blocker, etc. That'll be interesting as well. I think I'm quite lucky enough that I'm enabled by my directorate and leaders to do what we need to do, and we're very much given a long leash to do that. So that's really positive, which is why we are where we're at. Like I said last time, I'm sure if you find someone, or if you try hard enough, you'll find a few people who would say, IT is not great because of this and this. And it's like,
all the
it's
time.
like anywhere. But if you look at from a resilience point of view, an infrastructure point of view, uptime, blah, 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 most of the time, if something's not working, it's not actually our fault. So yeah, be good to see what others are thinking.
Because I think that's something that both me and you might be more distant from, perhaps just because of situations, because people come to Coursera because they want Coursera to do it, so we don't have to go out and find it. People come to us. So but when I was in a school, the battle of convincing people to do it, and that was when, even though at the time we thought there wasn't a lot of money, it's certainly not a lot of money that they've got now in there. It continues to be a horrible position to be in. I don't know.
It's really interesting. I find it interesting. Again, I think I must be in a fortunate position where, I will always argue for more money because, we always will. And if you remove a few things from the equation, like all of our infrastructure is up to date. We're fully, removed DFE cabling standards, and we're fully compliant with the DFE digital standards. And
the cabling's only needed if it's new.
It's only needed if, so there you go then. So as long as we put anything new we put in is compliant, which it is. I'm still not sure what CCTV camera needs, a Cat 6A cable, etc. But here we are. So yeah, like I think either we're really lucky, or I don't know what it is. Because I know a lot of people who have got really good budgets, and they do what we do, and that's they're enabled really well. Others aren't, and I don't know why. And I think it's very org specific. There's so many different.
I was just going to say, I think absolutely. I think it's so org specific, and the people who've got there, and also prior experience as well in that org. So there's ones that I've been involved in recently, and they're like, we want to move to the cloud, and then you find out that they've just spent 60 grand on servers, and you're like, and they're like, oh yeah, but it'll be a 3 to 5 year journey. I'm like, no, it won't. It'll be a 3 to 5 month journey to move you into there and to be fully adopted. So what you've just done is spent a load of money on things that you don't need, and then obviously people lose confidence then in it, and it ties in nicely to the blog post, I think, actually, in terms of the. So I wrote this blog post. It wasn't an April Fool. Zach on LinkedIn said, "Oh, is this an April Fool? I'm working towards a network manager role." It's not. It wasn't. It was. I started writing a completely different blog post,
Okay.
and then it kind of morphed into this blog post. So the general point of it is that. In my experience in schools, the pressure is always being put on to network managers to be the person who has to do everything. And
Yeah.
that role is so varied in terms of 1 minute you can be doing budget, 1 minute you can be changing a password, pulling a toner, putting in switches, doing work on servers configuration, changing a bulb. You know, managing people in a team. It's such a varied job that I think other than the school business manager, which is another area, it's such a varied job. And do you know what? I love it for that. I love the experience
Mhm.
that it's given me at every stage. And I still love going and do something different every day. I'm not one of these people who like to sit there and do it. So it's not necessarily, of course, as you said, the title's a bit clickbait. But it is now, as we're seeing schools move to MSPs, and we're seeing this a lot recently in terms of tenders, or moving into trusts that are developing central teams, is that there is this new opportunity for specialization and specialists in an organization. And part of that is because you used to have your servers that were general servers, but now you're aligned to platform. So you'll have your MIS expert, you'll have your perhaps 365 expert, maybe a cybersecurity expert. Now they might not be at the moment all employed. They could be outsourced specific areas. The term factional, I think I hear quite a lot, where you buy into the services there. But we are seeing more of those specialist skills needed at the different points. And I actually think that for a lot of people, that is a really good progression for them, because generally when they are technicians in a school and then they move into they want more money, they're going to end up going to industry where they won't have that generalist role in industry. You go in and you specialize somewhere. So it's quite a good route that people are already doing, but we want to retain those people in education and allow them that opportunity to specialize, support their learning through that. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe that a generous leader is important, because the most important part of a network manager's role is the leadership side of leading a team and enabling a team. And I think that's a completely different skill set from what a lot of people in that role have traditionally had, because they quite often get the network manager job title because they've been in that school for a long time and it's the route that you go up, But I've always argued it's a completely different job to being a help desk technician or to being an on-site technician, and there's so much more that you need to do in that role, that you can't be the technical person solving all the issues. You have to be a specialist in leading that team that does that for you. And you've got to have people around you that you trust to be able to do that. Now, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, because like me, you've come through that from a technician through to a leadership role and now on a trust level. Am I talking bollocks? Because it's quite possible, by the way.
No, so I think there's points that I agree with, and I think there's points that I hear you and I agree, but is it realistic at where we're at? And I think that's part of this great format, is because again, we're different sides of the table in that
Yeah.
way. So I think a couple of things for me, it's like, I think the network manager fits if you're in a single secondary school, local authority school, single academy trust, whatever that looks like. But even then, I think it's like, maybe it's now more about, okay, the evolution of the network manager. Because, I hear network manager and I'm like, so that is the network guy for the school or the trust. But actually, as we know, digital is more than networks. It's cyber, it's AI, it's in some people's cases teaching and learning to a point. Access control, it's CCTV, it's 365 workspace, MDM solution, so on, procurement, operational leadership. Like, we could go on and go on. So I think it's relative to the role in the organization. I think even if you're in a single organized, single school trust, whatever, it's more than, I don't think the title does what those guys are doing justice. I think that's the crux of it.
Agreed. Agreed.
I think that's where we're at, and it's not that the role's dead. It's just okay. The title doesn't necessarily represent the work that you're doing now,
Yeah.
because you're doing a lot more. And I think we see it now, don't we? I think we see that you look on Term or whatever website you use for recruitment or whatnot, and there's less network manager job titles coming up.
Yeah.
There's more like trust IT manager, head of IT, director of IT. What I'm seeing creeping through more, which I said last time, head of digital, director of digital, CDIO, CDO, etc. And in some cases, we're seeing CTO roles, interests, etc. Growing, which is great. Obviously, a lot of the bigger trusts already have those C-suite representations. So I think we're seeing like a vast sort of improvement, almost to how would we describe it? Industry level job
Exactly.
roles, which is great. The specialization thing, I think I'm sat on the fence with this. So I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have a cyber team. I'd love to have, so let's have a team and a SOC that's doing all that sort of stuff. An app team, like a device team, just a team that looks after Intune, and that's all they do. Because imagine if you had a team for Intune, all the wizardry stuff you could make happen. Brilliant. And then just your general 365 bots who are making things do and renaming everything every time. All of that sort of stuff. I'd love to have those teams doing those roles. But I guess my argument is once you've done, let's say we have a team for, say, those 4 or 5 core areas. Once you've done that initial big piece of work to get everything to that baseline, that standard, and even with continual development, do you still need those dedicated teams 24/7? Even in larger organizations, once you've hustled, once you've really done it, do you still need a dedicated, app team, device team? I can think we always need a dedicated cyber team, like 100% every single day. And I think some of the bigger trusts have actually gone more down, having a few of those specialists for some, cyber, etc. But then actually having a lot of just really skilled people who can do a lot of different things, keeping in mind sort of least privileged design, secure by default design, etc. So you've got to somehow build all that in.
I think that's key, though, isn't it? You've got to build it in as well to everybody's role. But I think you're making such a good point there, and maybe I think, as you say, like if you've got somebody who's just doing 365, like they're going to get to a point where they're bored. A couple of things I'd throw back is obviously those platforms more than ever are changing on a regular basis. So if it was an old school server in a school, that change process for that server would be when you choose to make that change. Now, do we need somebody specific to keep up with the changes that are coming through from Microsoft or Google? Sure. But taken from what you said as well, is it a case that we talked about, the cybersecurity thing. Is it a case of not platform specialists necessarily, but those subject specialists? So, cybersecurity would be involved in the platform, would be involved in the training, would be involved in every planning bit of it to make sure it all works. Is it a case that it's more broken down by those kind of areas? But I think if every team, looked at it, and I very much get the point that not every school's got a team in it. I absolutely do. But what you often find in them is that they are then working with another team. So, for example, I've introduced at Consero the escalation one. So, just being a friend on the phone if something goes really badly wrong, and we have got those people in there. And I know I would have liked that a few times when I was on the ground, which is one of the reasons why I've implemented it. But those larger teams is that you do want everybody in them knowing, the core things about cybersecurity. And I guess the question is and I think this is because there's so many different cases, isn't there? You're a reasonably big trust. Are you at a point where you need somebody specific in cybersecurity, for example, or is it the fact that your team's well versed in it all because you've been able to keep it small and transfer those skills? Is it in bigger trusts where it's much, much bigger that it does need one person leading that because the teams are so disparate around the country and separated, that there does need to be one person senior going on there. Maybe it's the spread of how, because it used to just be, didn't it? There's one school, one network manager, and now that is, I think, I'm not sure up on the numbers, but that is certainly, there's a big percentage now that's not the case. And I think that's what I was trying to get across. That's not the role anymore in this setup of trusts and stuff moving forward. I think that's what I was trying to get across.
Absolutely. I think as you grow, so like, I like the term, we're in the business of education, love it or hate it, there's politics behind it. Like for me, it's literally, we are in our business is to deliver high standard level of teaching and learning, making sure our schools are safeguarded. So that, that's safeguarding as we all know it, but also safeguarding in the sense of, is the building going to fall down? Is the roof leaking? Is IT working? Are we safeguard? There's so many different elements, right? So we're in that business of education. As organizations get bigger, naturally we have to change, don't we? So that model has to support and grow and evolve for what that organization looks like. I think you see it, like, I remember when I was in secondary school and there was like a team of like maybe 4 IT guys. Last I heard, there was like 1 IT guy left out of that entire team. And that's an example of how has the role changed and evolved, that those 4 jobs now can be done by 1 person, or is that more about like a budget thing, and actually we can save money and we'd rather have a few more issues, but we're saving a few $100,000 a year essentially.
Yeah, I mean, obviously staffing is the biggest cost, of any school or trust. It's 80-90% of the budget easily. Here's another thing to throw into the mix, is that has moving to the cloud meant that we don't need as many people?
100%. 100%.
That's what we say to schools,
I mean, I'm conscious of time and we want to keep it short, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give a final example on that point, and then I'll let you say what you say. So, 1st of May 21, joined DRB, as I've discussed previously many times. Everything's on fire, burned to the ground. If we'd kept the model that each school had from an infrastructure point of view and a wider digital and IT estate point of view, I would need, double the size of the team that I have now, maybe more, to manage that. And that would be like, not even cruising, just sort of waving by almost, things still failing over, etc. So, my favorite term, by design, everything we've done is, better in every way, but also means that we can manage a bigger estate, and the estate grows with a smaller team.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm not about, I'm all for, if we can get bigger teams, etc., brilliant. But it's got to be for the right reasons, not just for the sake of it, because actually, if we're being realistic, if we've got colleagues in other teams that really need help, but we've took the person that they could have, etc., that's not a great use. That's great. It might be good for us, but it's not good for the wider organization. So I'm all about having the right team with the right skill set. And actually, do we pay a couple of people a little bit more? And do we empower a few of the younger people on the team so we have a really small but lean team? We like that sort of SpaceX mentality, always bang on about it. It's like, let's fail fast. And when we do fail, we learn quicker and we iterate and we get it all right, etc. And I think that's the direction we're at right now. Yeah. But equally, that changes. So, another school could join and we have to completely re-engineer that. Are we at a point now where actually we want to do something completely different? I don't know. There's so many different options and avenues, and there's trusts that are bigger than us who are doing loads of something completely differently, smaller than us who have more people, and they're doing similar kind of things. And it's like, okay, I don't know. Is there a right answer? I'm not sure. What I think of my opinions and my answers, and maybe for another time. But again, every organisation is different, and how that digital estate is managed. And, prime example for me is like we're, the way we procure, and we're Gagpool, for example. So, brilliant. I don't have to worry about what's that head teacher said his IT budget is this year, and what's that it's like, okay, here's my IT budget. Now I need to enable. Yeah. And it's as simple as that, which I think is probably taking a load of noise out of my work, because I don't have to, worry about 14 different school budgets essentially.
But I think that's such a good point to wind up on, is that I think the bottom line, and this is always the problem if you're writing a blog post or you're putting across your view, is that you're only seeing it from your point of view and your side and your organization and what you're seeing it. And that's why this is going to be so good, because we're seeing it from different sides. And that's why we want the, people to pile in with their thoughts as well, is that actually we both don't know all the answers. And actually part of our skill sets, I think, is that we make it work for the organizations that we work in and that we support, and we can bring those different ideas and views in it. So I think on that note, we are trying to keep these shorter. I'm going to give us a little bit of a layoff this week because we obviously did the whole introduction. This is what we're trying to do and whatever. So we'll be able to dive in the future. But yeah, feedback on this kind of new style will be really, really welcome. So you can comment, as I say, and I'm sure both Jack and I will post this up on social media, and really look forward to hearing some feedback. We will, as I say, be doing these every fortnight. So what we'll do is we'll agree between us. As I say, we're really well organised. Some dates in advance, and then we'll almost have a schedule out where you can keep up and get those. And the idea is to just easy to listen to on your commute, or at another point. So you can watch it on YouTube. Just search Edtech People. You can go to our website, which is edtechpeople.co.uk, and you can also search for us on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and a host of other places if you want to find it on there. So please give us your feedback, give us your comments, and we will see you in a fortnight. Thanks, Jack.
Cheers, guys. Bye.